All right. Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to a Monday night. It is the Earthmaster out here. About 10:23 p.m. here, California time, May 20th, 2024. And latest activity out here on the Earthquake 3D globe here shows a 1.7 into the area of Hawaii, there in the green flag. We did see some deeper movement taking place out here across the Tonga and the Kermadec Trench area. Also a super deep earthquake there underneath the North Island region. We'll check this out here in just a little bit. Covering California activity first. Shows the latest activity. It looks like a little one on the southern branch here of the San Andreas Fault. A 1.0 coming in about 13 kilometers deep here on the plate boundary, right on the southern branch. As far as the swarming goes, that's been occurring down here across the area. It looks like it's come to a halt as of 1 o'clock this afternoon here. The latest one shows a one-pointer a little bit further away from the main swarming regions here. And this area has been picking up a couple decent areas of swarming, including that four-pointer that stirred up. Has been, about 5 o'clock this morning here. We've seen a four-pointer stir up there in that area of Southern California. So just kind of watching it. It's a little standstill right now. I don't think it's over. I'm going to leave up the California Earthquake Watch for now. Again, we've got that little one earthquake here right on the plate boundary. We'll continue to keep an eye on things as they evolve here across the West Coast. Northern California, a handful of smaller quakes through the Bay Area. We did have a little odd one way off the coast of Oregon here, a 3.8 off of the Blanco fracture zone. And this is I don't know. It's kind of in an odd area out here. It's not really on the plate boundary, not in any divergent zones. Just kind of sitting out here in an area just west of the Cascadia Sea Channel. So 3.8 coming in earlier this afternoon, and nothing else going on out here. Quick glance at the tremor map here. Let's double check that, see what we have. We got about 45 epicenters of tremor here in Northern California and Southern Oregon. Aside from that, things continue to remain quiet across the tremor department. Pacific Northwest, handful of smaller microquakes up there across the area. And the Intermountain West regions here, fairly quiet. Most of the movement east of the Rockies here, or at least southeast of the Rockies, is some movement out in Texas there across the oil fields again, like always. Still seeing quite a bit of earthquake activity with about 14 earthquakes here in the last 24 hours. So let's look at the deeper activity triggering down here across the Kermadec Trench and the New Zealand region. The latest one shows a 4.6. This is way up, though, into the Tonga Trench. Well, look at that. 613 kilometers deep here for a super deep earthquake. Not a big one, but that is an extraordinarily deep earthquake. Now, underneath the North Island area here, it looks like we did see a really deep earthquake, four-pointer at almost 500 kilometers deep here. I need to go over to the GeoNet servers and see what we got for that earthquake, because that is a deep one. So we're going to have to go to the all magnitudes here. Let's see when that was triggered. It looks like 6:52 p.m. local time here, so about 3 hours or so ago. This is from the GeoNet servers showing all the earthquake activity out here. 4.5 well off the North Island area into the Kermadec Trench. Trying to find that super deep quake there that was underneath the North Island 4 hours ago. They had a 2.7, 206 kilometers deep there. I'm wondering, there's a 3.2, 191 kilometers. But this is going back and back and back, previous to the time of interest here. I'm wondering if this quake didn't get revised somehow and the Earthquake 3D globe didn't update, because UTC time was 0152. Should have been roughly about here or so. Maybe it's this earthquake. 2.7, 200 kilometers deep, but I'm not seeing anything of magnitude. Well, this is 102 kilometers for a 2.4, But anyway, I'm really not seeing that quake that's showing up there on the Earthquake 3D globe. Sometimes the GeoNet servers will send off the data. It'll get picked up by the EMSC servers and show here on the globe. But looks like, I don't know, kind of an odd quake. If that is indeed a legit earthquake out there, that's super deep underneath the North Island area for sure. Either way, I'd say things are ramping up out here across our quiet zone recently, with a 5.7 here in Papua New Guinea area. That looks to be a decent sized quake out here, coming in just a couple hours ago or so, about 49 kilometers deep. This area has been awfully quiet in the last 24, but things have stirred up out here, it looks like. Also some movement up into the Izu Trench here. We kind of chatted about this morning. I said to watch for some surface adjustment here across the area of the Izu Trench, because this area did see, if we go back here the last 7 days, did see a little bit of deeper activity here just right next to the area of interest here. In fact, yesterday we've seen a pretty deep earthquake here, 450 kilometers deep for a 4-pointer. So a day later, surface adjustment, or at least further up into the subduction zone, getting some adjustment going on here with that 5.4 at 38 kilometers. So the subduction zone quakes, the super deep ones, do add further strain obviously up across the area, and that's what we witnessed there today. Pretty deep earthquake down across the Mariana Trench. Haven't seen any surface adjustment up here for now, but we'll continue to keep an eye on that area. Got some 4s stirring up here across the Java Trench, it looks like. Java Sea area. 5.2 earlier this afternoon. The latest one, though, shows a 4.9. A little bit further west, northwestward here along the plate boundary. Does look like we're seeing a little bit of migrational pattern here across the region. Overall, somewhat heightened activity out here across a broad scale region, and this could be what's relieving some of the strain out here against the west coast here for now, but we'll continue to keep an eye on Southern California. 2.2 earthquake into the big island of Hawaii. Let's see, let's go back this way here, see where we're at. Looks like that is up around the or down around the Pahala area, about 32 kilometers deep, but we're still seeing some movement out here across the Kilauea volcano region, and more so a little bit of earthquake activity across the East Rift Zone here. So that could obviously be a little concerning, right? Because we are looking at some heightened areas of inflation going on there across the Kilauea volcano. We didn't get a chance to check out the update this morning, so let's check it out now, which it was put out earlier today, just after our update. And far as the update goes, it looks like the volcano is currently not erupting, but the unrest continues beneath the upper East Rift Zone. And, of course, still seeing some elevated earthquake activity above the background levels. These earthquakes are occurring roughly around 1 to 3 kilometers, which is just about half a mile to almost 2 miles below the surface, with most of the magnitudes coming in at about a 2.0 or below. So, as I've said here in the past, just looking at a matter of time before we see things get elevated in terms of eruptive activity there at the surface. Here is the last 30 days of activity. We're still in a stationary pause here in the last month, or in the last couple days on the monthly chart here. But I expect this to key up probably tonight, pick back up here in inflation, and see that ramp up here over the next couple days, unless we see an eruption take place, and then we'll see that thing drop. But or a displacement of magma somewhere from the summit area. But for right now, things are elevated, folks. There across the Kilauea volcano. We'll definitely continue to keep an eye on things. South America area looks like a little bit more elevated movement out here, with quite a few 4s and even some 5s out there. The latest of 5.2 into the Ecuador area here, the northern edge of the Peru-Chile Trench. Most of this movement here in the last 24 hours has been relatively deep across that subduction zone region. You can see these rings raised off the globe. So keep an eye here on the South America region. It does look like things are stirring up quite nicely out here. Of course, this area very capable of producing some sizable earthquakes. Up around the Puerto Rico Trench, a pair of earthquakes coming in within minutes of each other, 3.7 and a 3.5. one of those deep, 55 kilometers deep, and then a little bit of surface or subsequent adjustment happening upstream here. So keep an eye on this area. Obviously, an area of concern for some large, damaging earthquakes here. Let's see, what else do we have here? Iceland. Let's go over and check this out here, because Iceland, another area of concern in terms of inflation. Down here across our area of interest shows a handful of earthquakes here. Really nothing major going on. As far as I know, they didn't put out an update, but at least let me double check here, make sure. This one, yeah, put out on the 17th, so it's been about 3 or 4 days now without an update from the Icelandic Met Office, so they're not posting anything new yet, but hopefully tomorrow we'll get an update from them. Although, you know, we're still looking at elevated inflation here. In fact, the total volume of magma in the magma chamber underneath the Svartsengi region has never been higher since the 2023 eruption there back in November 10th. Excuse me. So additional scenarios need to be considered if magma accumulation continues without a magma flow or eruption. So obviously, it's a evolving situation there across the region of Iceland. We'll keep an eye on it for sure. I don't think we're over by a long shot in that area. Up into the Alaska area, a handful of smaller quakes up there, it looks like. Did see a 4.5 earlier this evening, just prior to the subduction zone here of the Aleutian Trench. This is a major area. Definitely can't see some large damaging earthquakes. 4.5, about 31 kilometers deep. Again, just prior to this area of the subduction zone. We'll keep an eye on it, because most of the time when we see some activity like this just prior to the subduction zone interface, that means that things are stressed out here across the area. And, no doubt this area can see quite a bit of large-scale movement. I want to bring up, we're going to go 6.5 and above. I just want to take a look at all the activity here, since records have been kept. I like to check these various areas, and let's zoom in here a little bit. Obviously there was an 8-pointer out here in 2019. That was a year, was it 2019? No, 2021 if I remember. A little bit further west here along the subduction zone. I'm just kind of curious to see what we've had here. Obviously we had that 9-pointer back here. Oh, I don't remember what year it was. 1964. Yeah, I wasn't born then, but a lot of folks remember that. That was a huge earthquake out there. Created a decent tsunami as well. So this area can see some large damaging earthquakes. And if you look at the timestamps up here, it doesn't take hundreds and hundreds of years to see movement. In fact, this area right here, where we've seen the earthquake activity today, that little quake right up here, 4.5 prior to the subduction zone, that area is lacking some earthquake activity, it looks like. So definitely keep an eye on that. Let's see, 7.2. There's that 8.2. That's right, 2021. A little bit further over west here along the subduction zone. But this area, look at that. Not a whole lot of earthquake activity showing up here specifically on this zone. That could be our next player for some large-scale movement. See what we got here. This earthquake, a 7.9, 2018. So yeah, we'll continue to keep an eye on this area right here across the subduction zone. Maybe for some larger movement with this little clue of an earthquake. I always like to look for these little clues taking place out here prior to any future large movement. All right, what else do we have out here? Eastern Afghanistan, still seeing some activity out here. Looks like some deeper movement. This is very typical out there in this area of the world. handful of smaller quakes out here across the vicinity as well. Italy did see a little 4.2 out there. And there's just a gnat that just really is bugging me right now. 4.2 earlier this afternoon. Let's see what we got on the earthquake 3D globe here. Looks like there's a little bit of swarming going on there following that 4.2, 4.4. Some threes and whatnot stirring up out there in this area. Off the Nepal's area, it looks like here around the... I don't know if that's associated with that volcano out there or not, or this little region. But either way, a little bit of movement stirring up out there. Look at that beautiful volcanic feature and thousands upon thousands of people living around it. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. I don't know why, but that's goodness. So keep an eye on that. May have to dig into that a little bit later in terms of the background activity here across this region of Italy. Space weather activity here in the last 24 hours, relatively minor. Only seen a handful of sea flare activity, just bump it up here just barely. But we're starting to dip very low here, it looks like. Maybe it wants to travel into the B flare category, and that stands for boring, right? We'll see if that takes place or not. We do have several sunspots currently facing the Earth, but in all reality here, things are looking relatively stable and not quite as complex as they did here days ago. Obviously, a few numerous large regions out here, but they're relatively stable. If you twisted my arm and made me pick one to watch, yeah, it'd be a tough one. I'd be sitting here in pain for a little bit. But probably this area back over here, maybe this region here showing a little bit of complexity, but overall things are quiet in terms of the potential for large flare activity right now. 99% chance for C flare, M flare at 55, X flare around 10% chance or so. And the far side of the sun does have an interesting sunspot over here. A fairly large one. This is the far side of the sun, Earth-facing side. This sunspot here will be visible around the crest of the eastern limb of the sun here in a few days or so. Got to watch that. Looks like a very interesting sunspot. Very similar in size compared to what was that? 3664, the culprit of all the X flares and the dynamic aurora event we've seen here recently. That was that. That's still that sunspot. Looks pretty complex. We'll see if this one holds together. Just barely see it over here on the eastern area of the sun, but this one will arrive first, and it does look like a dandy of a sunspot. We'll have to watch that as it comes back into view here in a few days. Severe weather out there. Seen lots of baseball-sized hail out there around northeastern Colorado. Goodness, quite a bit of wind and some hail damage potential overnight as we head into the day tomorrow. For Tuesday, they added a moderate risk for some severe weather across areas of the Davenport, Iowa area, Iowa City. This is kind of a big deal. Got a decent chance of some tornado potential here for tomorrow as well. Wind, look at that wind threat, and some large hail potential. So be weather aware come tomorrow. Keep your weather radios handy. Keep a local FM radio station on, or AM, maybe local news. A lot of people asking me what I use for my radars, my radar monitoring and alerts. And there's thousands of different weather apps out here. But if you're monitoring your phone a lot and you're interested in radar, I always use a radar scope, which there's a free version and there's a couple different paid versions as well. But realistically, all you need is a free version of radar scope, and to me it's supreme above all of the other radar apps out there. And from there you can look at your location and monitor what may be coming at you and whatnot, as far as the warnings and whatnot goes. So that's what I use a lot, just to answer a few of those questions out there. But yeah, tomorrow looks to be a big severe weather day. Big time wind blower out there for sure. All right, let's see what else we got. I think that's about it, folks. I am going to call it a night. Little earthquake there in Hot Caves. A couple earthquakes down in Southern California still around the Anza and Barrett region. Let me see. Is the USGS reporting those? Looks like that is the quake that just came in here, 1.8, showing up on the Barrett and also the Anza station. So, we'll continue to watch this area of Southern California for some movement. It was similar last night, a little lull in the activity, and then we've seen that 4-pointer stir up away from the swarming area early this morning. So I'm not convinced that this is your typical swarm and then it goes away type of fashion here. So we'll continue to watch this area of Southern California, considering we did see a little quake here right on the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault within the last hour. I still think things are quite heightened out here, and can potentially see some larger movement. So we'll watch this overnight, folks. Have yourself a good one. I am out of here. I'm checking out. It's bedtime. North wind has been blowing like crazy all day. A lot of static in the air. Been getting shocked left and right here. Everything I touch is just zip. And I can feel it. Definitely feel it out there. I'm not a big fan of the dryness of the air when the north wind blows. So trying to keep it moist somewhat in here with some humidifiers and whatnot. Have yourself a good day. We'll catch you guys back out here for the Tuesday morning update. Unless we're awakened suddenly by a large earthquake, then obviously I'll pop back on. Have a good one and stay safe out there, folks. Peace out.